Hello, Andrzej. Today we tested motorcycles. I don't even know which ones actually, because each one is a little different. Because I would call this one a naked bike, I would call this one a cafe racer, and this one is a sport neo cafe, some new Honda invention. But overall, these are motorcycles up to 30,000 zloty, so between 22, 27, 28,000 zloty, small engine capacity, very agile for the city, and very good looking. And you know what? I'll tell you a lot more than I probably should, because this article will be in the magazine. So let's do it this way. Those who have a subscription can listen. Those who don't, cover your ears or buy a subscription, and then you can listen too, because I'm going to talk quite a bit about these motorcycles. It's Benelli. Let's start from the beginning, actually. Here, you get the most motorcycle for your money, because it's 22 grand, right? Well, more or less. So you really get a lot of motorcycle, because there are 2 cylinders, a big displacement 500, and it's actually heavier. You sit on it, and you just feel like you're on a real motorcycle. You got 2 brake discs up front, really good Pirelli tires, thick forks. You know, it's a real bike. We sit kind of like on a cruiser, but then things start to come up that we begin to point out, because we all know that Benelli now belongs to the Chinese, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, since good things can be made in China. I even know where they got the engine from, because it sounds exactly like the BMW F800R, that's the predecessor, although it has a smaller displacement and looks a bit different on the outside. But that's not important. What annoys me, for example, are these little things that really aren't complicated at all. For example, this adjustment. It's nice that there's an adjustment, but it's kind of loose. You know, it could just work better. Even now I set it up a certain way, and when I brake, it suddenly shifted, and now it's a bit different. So you have to be careful when you set it to make sure it's done properly. The suspension is still thick. It's nice. We feel pretty confident up until the point where there are really short, small bumps, because then things start to happen where you can feel that it can't keep up. Furthermore, you know, things like with the new motorcycle, bit of play in the lever well, it's kind of acceptable because it happens, but then there are things like, for example, wobbly rubber on the gear shift lever. You ride, you shift gears, and your boot just slips on it, man. That's really annoying, just a little drop. I get that it's the early stages that something can be changed, though I'm curious what should actually be here. Something should probably be here.
Is this for carrying the actual miner, isn't it really?
I think this is the re-recovery system.
Yes!
Leaned on Euro 4. Forget Euro 4. But wait a second. Overall, it's a really cool motorcycle, and all these things I'm nitpicking about. I can still nitpick about the Husqvarna, because the Husqvarna is definitely the most stylish out of all these motorcycles, but at the same time the least practical, because look, it's the smallest. Look, this is a small bike. We're sitting on 8 weights. Let me squeeze in. Oh, wow. But with my height of 180, well, I can reach the ground. But it's also comfortable for me just on my toes, so... Well, my wife is thrilled, but she can't reach the ground. And it's the same here. Come on! Come on, Tomek! Look, this is a motorcycle that has 2,000 kilometers on it, and already the clutch lever is this loose.
It's the most expensive one.
It's the most expensive because it costs 27,000 zlotys. It costs more than the KTM 390, which is what it actually is. Yes, it's made in India, but the Indians could have made something that's put together better, really. Same with these gauges. All of these things, you can definitely tell that's a little bit cheaper, you know. It's the most aggressive of them all. But theoretically, the suspension should also be the best, yet it's actually a bit soft and doesn't give you that much confidence in the corners. And finally, there's the Honda, which is the best built of the 3, because, well, it's a Honda. And here you can't really complain about the plastics or the levers. When it comes to quality, it's really hard to find anything to criticize, but for example, I do have a gripe with this look. If we already have a good, well-functioning lever, then there's no adjustment, because it also has to be cheap. So the brakes are sharp, but it's hard to get a good feel for them, because the lever engages really quickly, and it's kind of where the lever feels a bit like concrete, and I don't really like that. You can also see that everything here is made to be relatively simple and cheap, but here everything actually holds together the best. But on the other hand, the Honda has the least power and the worst performance. Does that really matter with these motorcycles? I'm not sure it makes that much of a difference, because this one is pretty aggressive. This one is a lot more aggressive than it seems. And these two have similar comparable performance. Because what does it matter that that one is more powerful if this one is much lighter? And what would we choose? We have already thought about what we would choose. Yes, Tomek said he would take the Husqvarna, but not the Vitpilen, but... Vitpilen. I said I would take the Honda CB, but not 300, but 1,000. What the hell, it might be 3 times more expensive. And the Benelli is actually pretty cool and really worth considering, because it sounds great. It's quite a decent motorcycle for that kind of money. If it turns out that they really catch on and work well, then you could easily take it, because with this one, we'd be most likely to go further somewhere, not just use it around the city. Besides, with it, we'll really be able to ride around on a real motorcycle, let's call it an adult motorcycle.
Surprisingly, its chunkiness is actually an advantage.
Its chunkiness is an advantage because it's comfortable. It's the most comfortable of all of them, so there you go. So the Yamaha R3 wins the comparison test, and you can read about the rest in the magazine. We'll simply describe in detail what each motorcycle has to offer, how it handles in corners, how it accelerates, how it brakes, and you'll be able to decide for yourselves which one you like the most and which one you possibly want to ride. Thank you, and best regards.